So, a massive trade deal was just announced between the United States and India. And on the surface, it seemed like a pretty straightforward pact. But it has quickly turned into this incredibly complicated puzzle with completely different stories coming from all sides. So, which is it? Was this really, in the words of India's Prime Minister, a wonderful announcement? Or was it, as his political opponents immediately claimed, a complete surrender of India's independence? To figure that out, we have to unpack how this one story was told by three very different world powers. Okay, let's start where the news first broke. Washington, D.C. This is the deal as the world first heard it, coming directly from the United States. President Trump announced the deal on social media, and the framing here is really interesting. Just notice the language he uses: friendship and respect, and then, crucially, as per his request. The White House is making it crystal clear that they see this as something India wanted, something India initiated. And here are the terms, at least according to the U.S. version. For India, you get a significant tariff cut and another big penalty tariff gets dropped. But in return, the U.S. said India made two massive concessions. One, zero tariffs on American goods, and two, and this is the absolute heart of the entire controversy, a complete and total stop to buying Russian oil. Right, so as soon as this announcement went public, the story got a whole lot more complicated because the other key players in this whole drama, India and Russia, they started telling a very, very different version of events. This slide just perfectly captures the confusion. The US makes this very specific, very bold claim: India will stop buying Russian oil. But then India's official response? Total silence on that topic. And Russia, the Kremlin spokesman just flatly states, "We haven't heard any statements from New Delhi on this matter." So you've got three players and three completely different stories. And here is Prime Minister Modi's full public statement. He focuses entirely on the tariff reduction, right? He calls it a wonderful announcement. But his silence on that huge Russian oil issue was so loud it was deafening. And that's exactly what his political opponents in India immediately seized on. So back in India, you've got this lack of clarity from the government mixed with these really bold claims from the US, and it just ignited a political firestorm. The opposition launched a fierce, fierce attack. The Indian National Congress, which is the main opposition party, did not mince words. They framed the deal not as some kind of negotiation, but as a total capitulation. And the language, it just got even more dramatic from there. Critics looked at the terms: India's tariffs on U.S. goods apparently going to zero, while U.S. tariffs on Indian goods stay at 18%, and they painted this picture of economic subservience, arguing it would make India an American colony. And then the attacks got personal. A top opposition leader, Jairam Ramesh, used a famous line from a classic Bollywood villain, Mogambo Kush hai, which means Mogambo is pleased. The implication was not subtle at all. President Trump was the villain who had gotten everything he wanted out of India. Of course, the Indian government pushed back hard. The External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, defended the deal, arguing it would actually boost their Make in India initiative and create jobs. He presented a view that was the complete opposite of the opposition's claims of surrender. So with all this political noise, what's the reality on the ground? Well, to really understand the deal, we need to look at the data. Specifically, we need to talk about the oil. Because, the economic facts often tell a much clearer story than all the political rhetoric. This chart really shows you just how critical Russian oil has become for India. In 2024, over a third, 36% of all of its crude imports came from Russia, making it India's single biggest supplier by far. The idea that India would just suddenly stop these imports, well, that would be a massive economic shock. But here's where it gets more nuanced. While a full immediate stop seems really debatable, the data shows that India's imports of Russian oil were actually already declining in the 6 months before the deal was even announced. They dropped from a peak of 2 million barrels per day down to about 1.4 million. And market experts all seem to agree. Even if the Indian government wanted to, halting all Russian oil overnight is nearly impossible. There are existing contracts that have to be honored, there's shipping logistics, and their refineries are literally configured for Russian crude. An immediate stop just isn't practical. So, if the central claim of the deal, the whole stopping Russian oil thing, seems so unlikely, why does it matter so much? Because this isn't just about trade. It's about a high-stakes balancing act on the global stage. I mean, for each country, the stakes are just enormous. Russia risks losing a vital economic lifeline. The US sees a chance to pull a major world power away from Moscow's orbit. And then there's India, caught right in the middle, trying to maintain its long-standing ties with Russia while building this new partnership with America. The outcome of this could reshape global energy flows for years to come. Which leaves us with the central question. Is this deal a smart, pragmatic pivot in India's foreign policy, a way to slowly move closer to the West while managing its other relationships, or is it a really dangerous gamble, one that forces a choice between old allies and new partners with consequences that could ripple across the entire globe?